In November, I actually sent out a letter from Axe the Carbon Tax and Take Back Our PC Party to some PC Party supporters. I exposed Patrick Brown's lies with regards to the carbon tax, with regards to how he's playing fast and loose and ignoring the party constitution on how we select candidates. And I told the truth. And I informed these members, former and current members, that they had the power to fix things under the party constitution, and they just needed to stay in the party. And then Patrick Brown lost it. He lost his mind. He went crazy or something. I don't know. Next thing I know, the PC Party executive starts a lawsuit against me. It's the first time in Canada that I know of in my research that a political party has sued an individual, let alone one of its own party members. Then they revoked my membership. Then they barred me from entering their convention in November. Then they started a whisper campaign attacking my character to some media and to candidates in the caucus. Luckily, on December 22nd, an Ontario court judge threw out the PC Party's lawsuit, and he said, quote, "It lacks substantive merit." And he said it was a strategic attempt by the PC Party executive to limit my freedom of speech. So here I'm running two campaigns debating political issues, and the Ontario PC Party executive and Patrick Brown collude and resort to heavy-handed tactics to try to shut down this grassroots movement.
Well, Ontario Conservative grassroots activist Jim Karahalios is the founder of two conservative organizations, Axe the Tax and Take Back Our PC Party. And you know, folks, by all accounts, he's a true blue conservative. But alas, in the bizarro world of Ontario PC leader Patrick Brown, being a true blue activist makes Karahalios persona non grata. Indeed, Jim's been stripped of his PC Party membership, and as you saw, he's even faced legal action initiated by the party simply because he wants the Ontario PCs to follow their own constitution and listen to their own grassroots members. Wow, the nerve of this guy. Joining me now is the host of The Gun Show, Sheila Gunn-Reid, with more on the latest fiasco brewing in Ontario PC country. Sheila, welcome once again to Rebel Roundup.
Hey, David, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now listen, Sheila, you're no stranger when it comes to trouble in conservative circles, given what's occurred in Alberta over the last several years. So given that Karahalios seemed to be the kind of conservative the PC Party would want to have on its side, why instead is this guy being shunned by the party establishment?
Well, one can only speculate. I mean, I look at this stuff through an Alberta-centric lens. We just spent the last 2 years fighting over who was more conservative on the right side of the spectrum between the remnants of our PC Party and the Wild Rose Party. They've now united into the United Conservative Party. But it looks like in Ontario, everybody's fighting over who gets to be more liberal, the Liberals or the PCs. And Jim is just there trying to make everybody remember that there's the PCs. There's actually two letters there. There's the progressives and the conservatives. And he's trying to remind them that, you know, our leadership have to follow the rules, and we have to put some daylight in between ourselves and the Liberals in Ontario. And nobody's listening, but it's worse than them not just listening. They're trying to shut him up. They threw him out of the party and filed a lawsuit.
It is amazing. And by the way, when we talk about his activism in the Axe the Tax, what he's talking about, of course, Sheila, is the carbon tax. And what I find astounding, what conservatives find astounding, what, you know, PC Party faithful once upon a time find astounding, is that one of the very first things Patrick Brown said after being declared leader of the PC Party at the AGM meeting was bringing in a carbon tax. Now, Ontario is, or maybe was, a manufacturing province. Sheila, why in the world would a future premier want to bring in a carbon tax for a manufacturing province and put it at an economic disadvantage?
It's politically tone deaf, especially when Ontario's biggest competition for manufacturing is right across the border in Detroit and the entire American Rust Belt. And we're seeing a renaissance in the Rust Belt because Donald Trump is refusing to bring in a carbon tax and dropping regulations and lowering taxes. And Patrick Brown is promising to bring in more. It doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't. It shows that the conservative movement in Ontario has learned nothing from the two most successful conservative movements on the continent right now. And I'm talking about Donald Trump and Jason Kenney here in Alberta. they're two very different style of conservatism. One is more ideological and one is more populist. But at the same time, they've campaigned on saying and doing things that are absolutely conservative. There's no mistaking them for liberals. And Patrick Brown and Kathleen Wynne, one's wearing a tie. From the outside looking in, that's the only difference for me.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Of course, Jim's other big campaign is about listening to the grassroots. And Sheila, I can tell you, because I've seen this firsthand, last year I went to 3 nomination meetings. I'm telling you, it was like witnessing a combination of George Orwell's 1984 meets the Three Stooges. It was every rule in the book was being broken. You had the police called in on a couple of occasions because they didn't like the presence of certain people outside the building where the nomination meeting was taking place. And they were not listening to the local nomination committee at all. They had their own people they wanted to put in, and that was who they were going to go with. What is driving this? It seems to me, Sheila, they are just alienating their base.
That's what's going to happen here. Good conservatives are just going to stay home because principled people won't vote for people with no principles. And that's what we're seeing here. I mean, the kind of stuff that Patrick Brown is being accused of doing, and like you say, you saw evidence of it firsthand in Ontario with these nominations, is the kind of thing that sane, otherwise normal conservatives would light their hair on fire about if we heard that Justin Trudeau was doing these sorts of things. But in Ontario, for some reason, if conservatives expect Patrick Brown to be better, the natural inclination is for people to say, well, you want Kathleen Wynne to slide into victory one more time if you just want a more principled conservative movement. It doesn't make any sense, and it is going to lead to the ultimate fracture of your PC party, which is actually something Jim Karahalios is trying to prevent.
And tell me on that point, Sheila, I'm just wondering if, given how awful this Liberal provincial government has been with all the several multi-billion-dollar scandals, with Wynne's declining popularity, I don't know, Sheila, can Patrick Brown actually blow this come June?
He is blowing it. He is blowing it. How do you not be beating Kathleen Wynne right now?
Yeah.
We threw out the PCs for far less. They were trying to build themselves a penthouse in one of the government buildings, and they were using the government airplanes as their private minivans here in Alberta. And we threw them out because that was too corrupt. But we've seen the PC party in Ontario, their polling is just going down and down and down as Kathleen Wynne gets progressively worse and worse. I think there is no stomach to support a PC party that is essentially the Liberal-Lite.
But here's the thing, Sheila, if he does go down in flames, and I think you're right, I think he should be miles ahead in the polls given the kind of government that he's going up against. Yeah. But here's the big question, I think. Going back to 2007, we had John Tory, then we had Tim Hudak, then we had Tim Hudak 2.0, then we've got Patrick Brown, which seems, to be an utter disaster at this stage in the game. If he goes down in defeat, does anything change in the PC Party of Ontario establishment? I'm talking about guys like Dykstra, the party president, Stanley, the executive director, because if nothing changes there, I think we're just going to get more of the same come 4 years from this year. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think as much as I don't want to see it, to successfully retake the conservative movement, there will have to be a fracturing of it. We saw that with the Reform Party when they fractured away from the federal PCs. We saw that here in Alberta with the Wild Rose when they left the PCs. There has to be some sort of purge by fire so that the PC party elitists know that the electorate is serious. Right now, we've got those old PCers left over. They're just basically insignificant now in the political landscape because the people took back the party. And I don't see another way to get rid of Wynne unless something like that happens in Ontario.
I agree with you, Sheila. What a tragedy yet again for the fourth time running. And I know the election is some 6 months away. That's an eternity in politics. So much can happen.
Yep.
But, this man's alienated social conservatives. He's alienated fiscal conservatives. Yeah. I don't know who's left to come out to the ballot box. Sheila Gunn-Reid, once again, thank you so much for your insight and spending some time with us on Rebel Roundup today.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Hey, that was an excerpt from my weekly show, Rebel Roundup, in which we highlight the best stories of the week with your favorite rebels. If you want to see the full show, please sign up to become a premium member.